Welcome to the SEC Unfiltered channel, and I am thrilled today to be joined by none other than Ole Miss head basketball coach Chris Beard. Coach Beard, I appreciate you joining us today. How's everything going in Oxford?
It's going well. Another great day in the best college town in the country.
Coach, I literally just moved from Oxford. So I had a job. I got out of college football, worked in recruiting side of things, did software sales in Oxford for college football teams, and we actually just went remote. So I'm in Atlanta. So I just moved probably about a month ago. Before we get really started, favorite restaurant on the square? Where are you going? Last meal in Oxford, where are you going?
Yeah, it's hard to say favorites because there's so many.
Yeah, you're right.
So I'm not saying it's my favorite, but I'll tell you, the pizza at Funky's is not like normal kind of like bar pizza. There's something crazy going on with that. It's a real pizza. I love it. We've been blessed down there. There's a lot of places that we really enjoy going. There's a new steakhouse in town, Tico's, which we've enjoyed. And then the steakhouse that was here previously, the Grill House, is a solid place too. So friends at Blu-rays, all sorts of places.
Nope, you're right. Been to all those great spots. Thought I'd hit you off with that. But Coach, so just initially, right after, biggest surprise initially when you took the Ole Miss job? Again, I don't know if you'd ever been to Oxford before. I know you were at Arkansas, Little Rock, obviously Texas Tech, and then the University of Texas. So I don't know if y'all played in Oxford or anything before that during your tenure there. But just what were your initial thoughts when taking that job? Was it because I think for a lot of people they're kind of surprised how nice the Pavilion is. Just for an example, something like that. What is one of the bigger surprises that took you back when you first got into the job at Oxford?
Yeah, well, first of all, I had a great feeling, great respect, and a little bit of knowledge. I came one time when I was an assistant for Pat Knight. We played an NIT like quarterfinal type game. I think the winner went to Madison Square Garden, and AK and those guys beat us, I think, in overtime. I remember that trip, just how cool the college town was. I think our team stayed on the square. I remember the night before the game walking around and just knowing that I was in a special college town. Also, just the relationship that I had with AK, knowing how he felt about Ole Miss, and certainly Kermit, the coach after AK, is a friend of mine. And so I know both those guys thought so highly not only of Ole Miss, but just the Mississippi, the state, and then certainly Oxford. I think surprise-wise, I don't know if it's a surprise, but I was pleasantly pleased. Like the Pavilion, when we played in the Tad Pad years ago, which I loved. Thought it was a great historical venue. We actually play one game a year there now. But no, just walking into the Pavilion for the first time, I, of course, had seen it on TV, but I don't think it does it true justice until you walk into the building. In my opinion, there's not a better on-campus facility in college basketball. There's some that are as good and really nice, but there's nothing better. So we're blessed to be at Ole Miss for so many reasons, but certainly we have, one of the best on-court facilities in the country.
No, you're absolutely right. I was at 2 of your home games this year, the Auburn game and the Alabama game. I thought, like you said, there's not a bad seat in the house. I encourage anyone who wants to go to a game at the Pavilion. It's one of the nicer arenas. If not, I think like from top to bottom, best, newest kind of arena in the league. But Coach, reflect on that first year. So now you've been here. You got hired what, Coach? March. I remember I think your opening press conference was like the first week of the NCAA Tournament in 2023 or 2023. Reflect on that first year. I mean, y'all went 20-12 overall. Didn't lose a game in non-con, and hell, you had a big, massive win where y'all dominated a team that went to the Final Four in NC State. But 7-11 in the league, and just Coach, for lack of a better term, kind of faded towards the end. Why is there anything you feel like you're doing different this offseason, maybe pivoting from that you think could help finish the year stronger for the 2025 campaign when conference play?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the goal every year. Even on the season where we played on the final Monday night of the season, the objective the next year was to improve. And you're trying to improve all areas of your organization, whether it be coaching staff or organization or off the court, strength conditioning, training room, player development, and certainly down to the team aspects of your offense, your defense, recruiting, trying to improve your roster talent. So no doubt about it. That's the objective in the summer. First of all, last year, the word I think about, I've asked that question a lot, is I'm very appreciative and I'm very thankful for everybody that was in our organization last year, starting with the players to the staff members. We had a couple guys, elevate and get good jobs coming out of our program. We've had some players move on to professional opportunities. And so, but I'm just really thankful. I think, being successful the first year is very challenging. Any coach will tell you that. You're fighting time, a lot of obstacles first year, but I was really proud of some of the tangible success we had, getting Ole Miss into the top 25 for several polls throughout the season. We had some good wins against NCAA tournament teams. You mentioned NC State. We beat some other really good teams along the way that ended up playing in the tournament. So above all, I'm just appreciative and thankful for the players and their effort. There's no denying that at the end of the season, I don't know if it was us fading or the competition, playing better than we did. I thought our effort for the most part was good all the way into that last game in the SEC tournament. Certainly execution has to get better. And that includes coaching. That's not just players. We've got to do a better job. So how are we addressing that? We're talking openly about it. We're trying to make some improvements this summer. We have some real tangible goals, and we're working towards that on a daily basis.
Coach, wanted to bring up, obviously, I think you're one of the better X's and O's coaches, and it's not just you're on the show. It is what you talk to anybody who's a credible basketball source. People are talk so highly about you. You're going to win at Ole Miss. There's no doubt about it. But you have a unique perspective because I think you came from the best basketball league in the country. I think when you were in it, when the Big 12 from top to bottom was, especially now when you added in Houston. But I think the SEC is as strong as it ever been. I graduated from the University of Alabama. When I was in college from 08 to 12, it was really – that's when Anthony Grant was there. It was really just Billy Donovan in Florida, and then that was Cal was just getting to Kentucky. And that was really about it from year to year. The league, you can attest, has gotten a lot better. After being in it for a season, what's kind of – give me the lay of the land and Chris Beard's opinion from the Southeastern Conference as a basketball conference when a lot of people think of it as just a premier football league.
Yeah, well, I think first, before you get to my opinion, it is what it is. There can be a case made that the SEC has been the best basketball league for the last couple of years, just like the Big 12 and others can do. I know in our league, there's no denying some of the stats. We've had more NCAA tournament bids, I think, the last 2 years than any conference. We've had more NBA draft picks and more NBA players on opening day rosters than any league. You look at the coaching, we've got guys that are in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and we've got other guys that are going to be one day. And so, just speaking from our perspective, not just trying to compare us to another league, there can be a strong case based on facts that the SEC is the best basketball conference, period. I think my opinion, I do bring a kind of unique perspective because I spent real years in the Big 12. I was just really impressed. To me, it started with kind of the home court venues in this league, the home court advantages. We went to some amazing places. We played in front of sold-out crowds. We played in front of real basketball crowds. So I was really impressed with kind of the gauntlet of the SEC schedule. I think from an X's and O's standpoint, I enjoyed competing against some of these new styles of play. It's another real challenge. The first year you're competing against programs that you're not familiar with. And so we just really enjoyed the challenge of the league. We look forward to competing in this. We look forward to doing our part. We got to get Ole Miss into the NCAA tournament. We got to get Ole Miss into the fight. I think last year we kind of entered the fight. And now it's time for us to start winning some rounds.
And sticking on that about the 24-25 Ole Miss team, I think it's a good transition here. I think the fans obviously know about the guys you got coming back, Matthew Morrell, Jamin Brakefield, Jalen Murray, guys like that. But you brought in some guys that I like on the back end of the roster. Some guys are going to be probably starters for you from the portal. Sean Padula, Malik Dia, and then Michael Brown-Jones, and who else? And then Dre Davis. Tell me a little bit about these portal guys you brought in. How do you think they're going to help improve the 24-25 version of Ole Miss?
Yeah, so our team, like most teams, will be a combination of returners that we have to get better. That have to have the best seasons they've ever had in college basketball. Certainly our freshmen, we're excited about Bowl and Klafke and Day coming in as young players. And then the portal group, there's no denying, it's not a secret. We'll need these guys to produce. We'll need to have some all SEC season type performances. And probably more important than the individual part, we'll need these guys to play together. So, Sean Padula was the guy that we wanted. He comes from a great program and great coach at Virginia Tech. He was the experience we were looking for. He's got that swagger to him. He's fearless. He can play with the ball and without the ball. And to me, my personal relationship with Sean is important to me. He's a guy that's got a chip on his shoulder, a guy that wasn't recruited at the highest level, but went to the ACC and proved that he can not only play at that level, but win and be an all-conference type guy. So this last year for Sean, I know it's important to him for a lot of different reasons, but he has those intangibles that we were definitely looking for. To join Juju in the backcourt will take some pressure off the ball handling and stuff. So Sean, we're excited. I think with Dre is just an ultimate winner. Led his team to an NIT championship, established himself as one of the best players in the Big East. He's a positionless guy. He can literally guard all 5 spots. He can play on the perimeter and around the basket. What attracted me the most to him was just kind of his discipline. Dre's a guy that takes care of business. He lives his life through a routine each day. He's got leadership written all over him. He's got a toughness about him. And, our expectations for him is to be one of the best players in the SEC, period. I think with Mikel, we needed some depth on our front line. Mikel's a guy that has that diversity. He's a good three-point shooter. He's also probably arguably our most talented back-to-the-basket skilled post player. He's got a toughness about him. Some guys will tell you they're from Philly, and they're really not from Philly. He's from Philly. He grew up. He's overcome some adversity. He's a tough guy. And that toughness and that competitiveness will bleed into our program. It already has this summer. Defensively, he's a guy really the ceiling's the limit. I mean, he can do a lot of things defensively, can guard a lot of different positions, so we're excited about him. Malik Dia is a guy that probably has the biggest upside in our program in terms of the transfers. Established himself at Belmont as a good player. But I think that he can not only translate that talent and transfer it to the SEC, I think he can find another ceiling. But skilled size, 6'9", 245 or so, physical enough to hold his own in the SEC, but obviously a guy that also can stretch the defense with three-point shooting. He's got quick feet. He's an IQ guy. He anticipates. He sees things. I was really proud that Dia chose to play at Ole Miss. We look forward to helping him, expand his talent. Barnes coming from Sam Houston. First thing I would tell you is a winner. There's a reason why Texas Southern won a conference championship. There's a reason why Sam Houston won a conference championship. Above all, this guy knows how to win. Smart, disciplined, can play with the ball and without. Resembles Matt Morrell in a lot of ways with his ability to stretch the defense and shoot and get his shot off. He's a guy that cares about his craft. Another disciplined guy that knows what he wants in this last year in college basketball. And I think, one of those names that might not have been talked about as much as others in the portal, but I think Barnes could be one of those guys when this is all said and done is talked about more than anyone. And last time we kind of had a guy like this was at Texas with Jabari Rice. We thought we were getting the best player in the portal while others didn't talk about him as much. But I think Barnes could end up kind of setting his own stage and telling his own story. Benson is a guy that adds some depth to our front line. An interesting player. I mean, at 6'7" or so, has a 7'4" wingspan, and it translates. One of the best shot blockers in college basketball last year per minute played. An older guy, an experienced guy, a guy that's all about playing his role and helping us win. Seeing if I missed any of the sorts here. It's pretty good when you got as many portal guys as we have. Yeah. For me to remember all those, I kind of pat myself on the back.
Yeah, Coach, you nailed all those guys. I worked in college athletics with a bunch of coaches who couldn't have nailed that. But Coach, that another great transition here. You mentioned all those portal additions, and I've seen another interview. It may have been with the Field of 68. I think it probably was your Field of 68 interview. You said a good point. Two of the biggest impacts in college athletics have happened over the last 3 years: name, image, likeness, and the transfer portal. What are the biggest challenges in today's game when you're dealing with players and stuff like that than it used to be, even back to your Texas Tech days and even Little Rock days, where the transfer portal wasn't as active and name, image, likeness wasn't a thing? Have you had to adjust your coaching style at all?
Yes, but we try to adjust and we try to adapt every year, even when there's not a monumental rule change. I think that's what growth is. As a player, you're trying to improve. As a coach, you're trying to improve. And I think that adapt word is probably the most important word in teaching and coaching right now. It's an interesting thing is coaches and as players, the most important people in our game, we don't set the rules. And I think as players and coaches, we can only adapt. And I think the great ones can. The winners figure it out. And anybody that spends time, not adapting is probably going to get left behind pretty quickly. So I think right now there's no denying, like the portal alone was a monumental rule change that changed roster construction. It changed player development. And then you put name, image, and likeness on top of that. Now you have the ability to leave, but you also have the ability to leave for different reasons other than just basketball. So I think these two things, I think it's too early to say whether this is good or bad. Kind of like the 3-point line when it came in, some people thought it would hurt the game. Some people thought it would help it. And then as time has shown, I think it's ended up helping it with spacing and just making our game more exciting probably for the fan. I think these two rules too, it's like the big thing I think is we're just so early into the name, image, and likeness and portal that it's almost kind of like the Wild Wild West. Like I don't watch a lot of TV, but I'm actually watching a pretty cool show right now, Billy the Kid.
Billy the Kid. I want to tune in. What's it on?
I think it's on Paramount. But the bottom line, like, if you know the history of our country and stuff, when like America was formed and laws were formed, and that balance between the way it used to be, just old school, handle your differences, and now you have law and stuff, and it's like, it takes time for everything to kind of change. That's where we're at right now. Like I love name, image, and likeness. I was one of the first guys out there. I wanted the players to benefit. Makes sense to me, right? This game makes money for a lot of people. Why not the most important person, the player? But it's so early on. What is this thing going to look like with the guidelines and the rules eventually? So we're in an exciting time right now in college basketball, but also a time that has a little bit of uneasiness because there's just uncertainty of where this deal is going. But as coaches and players, I still think it's basketball. I mean, you got to have a relationship with the guy you're coaching. You got to have a relationship with the guy that's coaching you. You got to have a relationship with your teammates. Hey, we got to get a stop on one end and get the rebound, and we need to figure out a way to get a basket on the other end. So while everything's changing, at the core of it, every day we still walk out there and we're trying to play the game.
Coach, a couple more questions. Again, I appreciate you joining us, but just give me your initial thought. What's your thoughts on expansion of the NCAA tournament? I know they're talking about increasing maybe anywhere from 72 to 76. You for or against that? You're kind of like, I haven't even really thought about that.
Yeah, on those questions, all you can do is kind of personally answer it because I don't have all the background and this and that. But just me personally, I think that the NCAA tournament is the best sporting event in the world, period. I know that others can rival that. Maybe you're as good, but there's nothing better than the tournament. It captures the attention of not only our country, but really our world as basketball continues to grow with the international basketball growth and stuff. Like, I mean, from selection show Sunday to that 3 weeks to get to that final Monday to win those 6 games in 3 weekends, to try to get to the Sweet 16, then try to get to the Final Four, and then try to get to that Monday night. And, the dynamics of the underdog, which I was been a part of and blessed. I have no better memories in basketball than taking Little Rock to the NCAA tournament and getting to that second weekend. To also being on the other end, the pressure of being a high seed in the tournament. So my thing is, don't fix it if it's not broke. If my car cranks today when I leave the office, I'm not going out of my way to go down and seeing what some automotive guy thinks about it. If it works, I'm not going to fix it. So, whether that expands a little bit to 70 something instead of 68 to get a few more games, I can listen to that argument. But me personally, I love the automatic bids for the team like Little Rock that deserves to be there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's broke, so I don't know why we fix it. Now you start getting into revenue and TV and this and that.
Different conversation.
That's a conversation that I don't want to be a part of.
Yeah. No, for sure. 2 more questions, Coach. These are a little bit more off the hook. I'm interested in hear you saying this or answering this one. If one of these guys was obviously one of assistants on your own staff at Texas, but if the other 15 coaches today, God forbid it doesn't happen, lose their jobs in the league, they're 16, who would you pick to be an assistant on your staff? I know one of them's already been, but if you had to pick one more, who would it be?
And that's an interesting one. I never asked that. I would start by without knowing a lot of these guys personal and all, just from the basketball standpoint of the experience in the basketball minds that we've competed against now. I would say I would make a call to all 15.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in all 15 of those basketball minds joining our staff. Now, in terms of working with somebody, there's a lot of the intangibles that have to fit. But just my respect for the guys that we compete against in this league, I would definitely make those phone calls. The personal relationships you mentioned, Rodney and I have obviously worked together before. We're close. And I've got some other really good friends in the SEC as well.
Coach, last one, this is a little bit of a funny one. So I was listening to your, I think it was your Dan Patrick interview you were doing in Minneapolis the year y'all played for the national championship against Virginia. You said you were talking about your whole coaching days. I think they quizzed you to try to do all 12 of them in chronological order. You mentioned a funny story. I think this movie's hilarious, the semi-pro movie. You said y'all kind of did the Jackie Moon thing, free corn dogs, before the movie was even made for what was some South Carolina semi-pro team. What was it?
Yeah, one of the most exciting seasons, growing seasons I ever had. I was blessed by myself in a transition in college coaching and had an opportunity to coach a pro team in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Matt Painter is the one that actually told me about the job to start. Long story, but it was the year of the NBA lockout. The NBA had locked a little bit that summer. And there was a lot of really good players around the world that were kind of frozen out of jobs. And so we ended up kind of a perfect storm, lightning in a bottle. But the 16 players that we had at training camp that September were like really players. We had all SEC guys, all ACC guys, even had a couple of guys that had played in NBA games. But the basketball was amazing. Off the court, a little bit challenging. Definitely had some semi-pro type stories. Hey, you mentioned this. Check this out, man. Former player.
Look at you, dude. Jackie Moon right there.
We got today. So when people talk about semi-pro and ABA, it's kind of personal to me. But no, we had some promotions. I remember one night if we scored 125 points or something, everybody got free concessions, and another night was based on our defense if we held a team, and we did some things like that. And I remember George Tuttle. I've had no better basketball friend in my life, George Tuttle. We lost him too early to a battle with cancer, but George, a longtime college coach, helped me that year on that pro team. But I remember sitting at a timeout because we were in charge of more than the coaching at points of that journey. We were helping with a lot of things. We had different owners come in and out throughout the season, but we had some type of function night where if we scored a certain amount of points, I remember George kind of tapped me during the games like, "Hey man, you want to slow this down here a little bit? If we score, we're gonna have to pay for that." So
it's like the same.
Yeah, we did some sumo wrestling one time at halftime in those big suits.
They didn't wrestle a bear or anything like they did on that.
Yeah, we did that at Texas Tech. I challenge you to Google this. Right. I don't think this got enough publicity. It was during the COVID season, which I understood. But during our COVID season, Mark Adams, who's back on our staff now, we had made a deal with our players and our fans. Really, if we had restricted attendance during COVID, they were allowing a certain percentage in there. But I think we told the players if we win this game and we hit these certain marks, that Coach Adams is going to box a bear after the game. And true to what we try to be true tellers. We're not perfect, but we try to do what we say we're going to do. We honored that commitment. I think it's got to be on YouTube or somewhere, but check that out sometime. Mark Adams fighting a bear after a Texas Tech win.
So there's evidence out there of this.
Yeah, it happened.
Jeez. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time, man. We went 24 minutes. I know you're a busy guy. Y'all are in the middle of practice and stuff like that. But again, Coach, you are going to have phenomenal success at Ole Miss. Y'all drew a ton of momentum from last year, your first year. I can only imagine what's going to happen this year. But I wish you nothing but the best in 24, 25, and I appreciate you joining the show.
Thank you very much, man. We'll see you soon.
Appreciate it, Coach.